What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in, and time for another video. This is Kit, and we're going to be talking about balancing rods and reels. Now this is going to be kind of a long video, so bear with me on this. If you want to pause this video first before you get some coffee or something, whatever you want to drink, go ahead and do so, and then we'll proceed. For some people, this is not anything new. I would imagine that there's quite a few of you out there that would want to hear the information on how I balance my rods and reels. However, for the guys that know a little bit, just hang on until the middle of this video, and then after that you'll see exactly some tips that you'd probably find useful. Okay, so let's start with the very basics. Rods and reels have some information written on the spool. Now it depends if you are buying a Japanese domestic market reel or rod, the labeling is going to be different. Some reels and rods actually have both of these information written. Okay, for this one it's here, right there. You can see some of the lines written there. And for this particular one, it says 8 pounds 140 yards. Okay, and that's very important information. Now you pay particular attention to 8. Okay, so it says 8. I have another reel here, and it says 6 braid and mono 3. So it says 6 and 6 pound test braid and 3 pound test mono. Now on the rods it also has something. It says, this particular one says line 48 and PE line, which is braid, 0.4 to 1.0. Now remember, I said Japanese or Western. Okay, so for Japanese domestic market rods and reels, they're labeled PE. PE is the measure of the diameter of the line, so how thin or thick the line is. 0.4 is about the thinnest or the standard thinnest of most lines. I know that there are lines that are way below that. Those are more specialist lines than there are regular off-the-shelf lines. So these are, for all intents and purposes, 0.4 is practically the most common thin line that you'll find. Note that for Japanese standard lines, what happens there is that it differs from manufacturer to manufacturer. So one manufacturer's 0.4 could be 8 pound test, and the other would have 6 pound test. So that's roughly 3 kilos and roughly 4 kilos. Okay, so you divide the poundage by 2.2 and you'll get the kg equivalent. But we mostly just round it off. So 6 pounds would be 3 kg. So when you're buying a reel and you're looking at a rod, or if you're vice versa, okay, it could be that you're looking at a rod first. Very first thing that you look for is the line size that it carries. So if it says, say, 0.4, you look for a reel that also says 0.4. Now the sizes would be 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then 1. Okay, and then from 1 it goes 1.2, 1.5, so on and so forth. Now the measurement is on the diameter. Okay, so it tells you, the reel would tell you exactly how much line it would carry for a particular size. Now with the Japanese, it's a bit more straightforward, because you look at the rod, it says 0.4, you go look for a reel, it says 0.4, match them up, and it's good. That's it. And then you buy .4 line. Your rod reel line is balanced. Okay, so it's as easy as that. But it gets a bit tricky for Western rods because it could be that it says 6 to 8 for the rod, and then for the reel it could say 8 to 10. Okay, now one reel higher, one size higher, one size lower could be used. However, if you go one higher, it could be that it's a bit unwieldy. You know, sometimes you have to go one size lower to actually feel that the rod and reel is balanced. Now, different brands of reels have different sizing. So it could be that one brand's 4,000 is another brand's 8,000 size. So you have to look into the brands first, do a little bit of research to see exactly which brands that you're going after or going for. But the two major brands that you most likely find would be either Daiwa or Shimano, and the sizing for Daiwa is kind of different from the sizing of Shimano. So now for the more experienced guys, first thing that I do when I get a reel is actually get a spare spool. Okay, and the reason being is that it could be that for one line I want it to be a bit heavier. Okay, it could be that, let's say I have 4 pounds on this, and then I'll have 6 or 8 on this one. And what happens is that when I'm fishing, okay, good example is this rod right here, and it's a shore jigging rod. It's a light short jigging rod. So it's rated for lures of 3 to 15 pounds. 3 to 15 grams. So if I'm using 3 gram on this and I'm using thick line, I won't get much distance. So I usually label, or I usually buy reels with 2 spools, or I buy an extra spool and I have what I call kind of like the distance combo. Pop the thin line on there, and I'd be able to cast really light lures, okay, or light lures according to the grammage indicated on the rod. So I'd be casting 3 gram lures farther, heavier lures farther as well. So I don't go over 10 grams or 12 on this one. Okay, I would be able to cast a 12 gram lure farther with 0.4 than I would with 0.6 or 0.8. That's physics, you know. There's, when you cast, line goes out, has to fight friction on the guides as it spirals out, has to fight friction as it goes up and over the lip. So there's a lot of friction points before it even leaves the tip of the rod. And mind you, they have several guides, so there's friction there. And when it flies through the air, when your lure flies through the air, there's a lot of friction from the air and your lure, so it gets affected by that. When your line goes out of the rod, what happens is that length of line also gets affected by the air as it travels through the air in its whole length, plus on the side when there's wind. So with thinner line, it slices through the air, has less friction, and goes farther. Okay, so when I need to, or if there's bigger fish and I have a heavier lure, I could use thicker line, and when I hook up into something bigger, I'll stand a better chance, which means that I could also use heavier leaders with heavier line. So when you're balancing your rod and reel, for that matter, the addition of an extra spool gives you 2 balancing, or I mean, if you have 3, even better, because you'll have thin line, medium line, which is probably the most optimally balanced of the 3, because you'll have like a middle thing for heavy it's practically the best of both worlds. So it's kind of like the medium setting, you know. So you can cast relatively lighter lures or really good distance, and then, well, certainly farther than you would with the thicker line. And then when you need it, the thicker line. Now, if you don't like the idea of actually having a thin line on one of them, if you have two, you could spool the same line on this and you'll always have a backup. So there's always times when you're fishing and you snag and you have to cut the line for one reason or another, and it shortens. Now, most people would just fish with it and then have the performance of their combo cut down short. Now, if you have a spare spool, what happens is that you don't have to wait for your line to get changed or whatnot. You have an extra fresh set of line, pop it in, and you can fish at the topmost optimum performance of your rod and reel. So yeah, kind of a miracle that I actually got this. This is not the first take, by the way. I mean, I've tried several times, but it's actually kind of a miracle that I fit this in this short. So I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead. Okay, so thanks for tuning in, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Click on the notification bell so that you'll get notified when a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.